Okay, this video is going to cover lesson 3.2 and 3.1, which is one-step inequalities. Okay, now it's going to ask you to solve and graph. Just a heads up that anytime I forget to take this off when it says write in set builder, please note that that is not something that we do, and that you can go ahead and just mark that out. Okay, so we're not worrying about set builder. So anytime you see that randomly on homeworks or quizzes or tests, anytime it rears its ugly head, just throw it out. Okay, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to be solving and graphing. Okay, so solve and graph. All right, so when we look at this guy right here, we are going to still be isolating our variables. Okay, so we're going to be getting that x all by itself. And when we do that, again, go ahead and just draw your little line down there. We're going to isolate, and we're going to be adding 15 to both sides. So just like when we're solving equations, we're going to solve this inequality. So x will be greater than 3. All right, so then it's going to ask you to put it on a number line. So I've got 3, and then if you're just writing out a number line, just put like a number on either side of it, okay? It doesn't have to be too detailed. All right, so now let's review that. If you have less than or greater than, okay, keep in mind that this is going to be what we call an open circle, okay? And what this means is not part of the solution. So that number, where it has an open circle, it's going to be not part of the solution, okay? Now, if it has an equal sign on it, so less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, that's going to be an open circle, okay? And that is going to be part of the solution. So part of the solution. Okay? All right, so when I look at this guy here, okay, this is saying it's greater than. And greater than means I'm going to have an open circle at 3, and then I'm shading which way ever the arrow is pointing, okay? So I look at this guy. Which way is he pointing? And that's the way I'm going to be shading, okay? And if it helps you, I can go ahead and, oops, not do that. I can go ahead and put a little arrow in right here for you just so you can see. Again, it's which way is it pointing, okay? Which way is it pointing? All right, and so what this means is it means that 3 is not part of your solution because we didn't fill this in. So in this case, this is not an answer. This is definitely not an answer because there was no shading on it. But 4 is an answer, okay, because it has shading on it. All right, so let's go to the next guy. All right, so on this one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add 3 to both sides. All right, draw a wall if you need to. So x still greater than or equal to 13. Now, before you can graph, you must do a rewrite. And so you need to make it x is less than or equal to 13. Basically, you're just flipping it over. But before you can graph, your variable must be out front. It has to lead the way. Okay? All right, and we're going to go ahead and make a graph for this guy. So 13, 14, I'm going to put 12 on the other side. Okay, so now this guy's got an equal sign. So if it's an equal sign, we're going to fill it in. And then again, which way is that arrow pointing? That arrow pointing is to the left or less, okay? So now when I'm looking at this guy, 13 is now an answer because it's filled in. 12 is an answer because there's shading over it. 14, not an answer. Okay, and go to C here. Again, one stepper. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 here, so that cancels. So I'm going to get x is less than -6. Okay. Now I'm going to make my number line. Make sure that we put the negatives in the correct order. All right. So now when I'm looking at this, again, it's less than, so I have an open circle, and it's pointing in this direction. Okay. All right. Okay, so now on this guy, hopefully you guys would be saying multiply by the reciprocal, all right? So I'm going to multiply by -4/3 on both sides, okay? So this will all cancel, W. Now, here's something you may or may not remember. Anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, you've got to flip that inequality symbol. All right, so since I multiply by negative, I flip the symbol. Now in this case, the 3's would just cancel out, so I'm going to get -4. Okay, but again, let's go ahead and put that rule down because that's really important. Okay, so when you multiply or divide by a negative number, flip your inequality symbol. Okay, so that's kind of an important guy there we need to know. All right, and then if I'm going to be asked to graph it, I'm going to go ahead and get my number line going here. So I've got -4, -5, -3. Now this is going to be closed in because there's an equal sign on it, and it is pointing to the less. Okay, so again, -4 is an answer, -5 is an answer, but not that 3. Okay, all right, going down to the next one here. Okay, so now this one we got to be really careful. Okay, so I'm going to count this just as a -3. So I'm going to go ahead and just put that negative with it. And since it says divide, I'm going to multiply both sides by -3. Okay, so those cancel. Okay, I have an R. Now I did multiply by a negative, so that sign has to flip. And then -3 times -1 is 3. Now, kicker here is that variable has to be out front before we can graph it. So I'm going to rewrite it as R is greater than 3. So really in this case, I flipped once because I was multiplying by a negative, so I flipped a sign. And then I flipped it a second time because I rewrote it with that R out front. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to graph. So I've got 3, 4, put 2 on that side. I've got an open circle because there's no equal sign, and I'm shading to the right. Okay, so again, 2 won't work. 3 won't work because it's not filled in. 4 works. Okay, on this guy, we're just going to divide both sides by 8. And so when I do that, I get y is less than 8. Okay, go ahead and do your graph. So 8, 9, and put 7 on the other side. I've got an open circle going to the left. Okay. On G here, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by -12. So the -12's canceled, G. Now, I just divided by a negative, right? So if I'm dividing by a negative, flip that sign. So I get less than or equal, and then I'm going to take 150 and divide it by the -12 there, and I get -12.5. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to graph on my number line here. So -12.5, I'm going to put a -12 over here and a -13 over here. Okay. Now, in this case, I do have a closed circle because there's an equal sign and shading to the left. Okay. All right, I want to pause the video and try H on your own. Okay, so in this problem, you should have divided both sides by -7. So you would have got -7, sign flipped because you were dividing by a negative. And then I needed to go ahead and do a rewrite. So my sign flipped again, and I've got y is greater than -7. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put -7, open circle, and shading to the right. Okay, now down here, I gave you a list of inequality words, okay? And these words are going to help us attack word problems, okay? Eventually, you're just going to need to know these. Now, there is a way to kind of think through it logically so that you don't have to memorize words. So if you're not good at memorizing, there is a way to do it without memorizing. And if you're a good memorizer, well, go ahead and start memorizing because you're going to need to know these. All right, let's go over to page 2. All right, and again, we see that weird thing called set builder notation. Just keep in mind that does not apply to you, so go ahead and just cross that out. All right, and this says write an inequality and solve. So a number increased by 6 is less than -4. All right, so now just keep in mind a number is just any variable. Put an X there, A, it doesn't matter. Increased by means plus 6 is less than. Now don't get this confused like less and less than from chapter 1. See that word is? That is telling you that there's an inequality symbol there, -4. So my inequality here would be x plus 6 less than -4. And we're going to go ahead and solve by subtracting the 6 over to the other side. So x is less than -10. And that's my answer. All right, trying the next one here. The product of 5 and a number is at least 25. All right, so again, product means to multiply. Okay, a number, just stick any letter you want there. So I have like 5x, all right, is at least, again, you see that is popping up again, so that's telling you it's an inequality symbol, and we have 25 on the other side. Okay, so if you don't know what at least means, you have to kind of think about it logically. Yes, you can go back and look at the table if you need to, okay, but at least 25, so think about it. If I have at least $25, could I have more than $25? Well, the answer should be yes. If I have at least 25, I definitely could have more than 25. So again, alligator eats the bigger side. So since I could have more, this is my smallest amount, okay, which means this has to be my big side. So one side is small, one side is big. Alligator will always eat the bigger side. Now, as far as solving this goes, we're just going to divide both sides by 5. So x is greater than or equal to 5. Okay. All right, so then we've got define a variable, write an inequality, solve, and then a complete sentence. A hard drive on your computer has a capacity of 120 gigabytes. You have used 85 gigabytes. You want to save some home videos to your hard drive. What is the possible sizes of the home video collections you can save? All right, so first off, we're going to define our variable. So possible sizes is what we're looking at for our home videos, okay? And I'm going to put V for video. Possible video size or sizes. Okay. Now it says I have 120 gigabytes. I've already used up 85 of them. All right. So most of you would say, well, just take 120 minus 85. And I would agree there. And that's going to tell you how many videos or what size of videos that you can still use. Okay, now keep in mind, alligator eats the bigger side. You have a capacity of 120. You cannot go over 120. So again, there's a small side and there's a big side. Alligator always eats the, oh crap, I got that backwards, didn't I? Let's try that again. There's a big side and a small side. Okay, so the 120 is the biggest I can be. Alligator always eats the bigger side. So it should look like something like that. Now the question is could it equal 120? Yeah, I think so. So we're going to go ahead and put an equal sign on there. All right, so now if I take 120 minus 85, I get 35. Now normally we write our variable up front, so that would require a flip. Okay, so there's your answer. I've defined my variable. Now, please note that when we're writing the inequality here, you could do this a lot of different ways. You could have said V plus 85 and then put the total of 120 on the other side. Again, alligator would have to eat the 120 because it's your biggest number. But just take note, there's going to be a lot of right answers here, okay? And then 35, and then let's take a second here to write our sentence. So our sentence here would be 35 gigabytes, the largest possible video size is 35 gigabytes. Okay. And you know what? I should actually put is up to, because we could be smaller and that would be okay. All right. Guys, it's kind of important to put in things like this, at least, at most, up to, no more than. We're doing inequality, so we have to have like a word that implies that it's an inequality. Okay? All right, let's go to the next one. A club has a goal to sell at least 25 plants for a fundraiser. Club members sell 8 plants on Wednesday and 9 on Thursday. What are the possible numbers of plants the club can sell Friday to meet their goal? Okay? All right, so possible number of plants. So I'm going to put P. Okay, so number of plants. Okay. All right, and I've got a total of 25. Now, what does that word say here? So it says, oops, get that off. It says right here, at least 25. So are they okay going more than 25? Yeah, at least 25 means, yeah, 25 is my smallest, but I would really probably want to go more, right? The more you sell, the more money you make. All right, so 25 is going to be my smallest amount. So my alligator is going to go the other direction there, okay? Because I want more than 25. Now, I'm okay if I equal it, though. And so far, we've sold 8 and 9. So we've got 8 and 9 already sold, and we want to find out how many more we need to sell. All right, so now let's go ahead and combine like terms there and get 17 plus 9. And then let's subtract the 17 off from both sides. So that cancels. So P is greater than or equal to 8. Okay. So they need to sell at least 8 more plants. Okay. All right, and notice again how I'm putting an inequality word in there. So at least, right? At least. All right. Your dogs, you walk dogs in your neighborhood after school, you earn $4.50 per dog. How many dogs do you need to walk to earn at least $75? All right, so first off, again, what are we trying to find? We're trying to find how many dogs we need to walk. So I'm going to put D, number of dogs. Okay, now it says here $4.50 per dog. All right, so $4.50 per dog. Per means to multiply. So I've got $4.50 a dog. All right, and at least $75. So if I want at least 75, am I okay making more than 75? Absolutely. So that's going to make this side your smallest. This is the smallest amount you want to make, but you're okay making more. So again, alligator is going to eat the bigger number. Now, are you okay making exactly 75? Sure. Okay. So now I'm going to divide both sides by 450. All right, and so I got D greater than or equal to 16.6 repeating. Now, let's think about this for a second. We can't have 16.6 of a dog. That'd be a sad dog. All right, so in this case, we're going to need to round it up to 17 dogs. They aren't going to earn enough money until they've walked that 17th dog. Okay, so you need to walk at least 17 dogs. Okay, so again, notice I'm including that inequality word right there, right? At least, at least. All right, and last one. A student club plans to buy food for a soup kitchen. The case of vegetables costs $10.68. The club can spend at most $50 for this project. How many cases can the club buy? Okay, so if I'm looking here, first off, how many cases? So I'm going to put C. Number of cases. All right. Now it says they can spend at most 50. So I'm putting 50 on one side. Now, at most means I cannot go over 50. So 50 is my biggest number, but I could equal it. All right. So again, alligator eats the bigger number or the bigger side. Now up here, it's telling me that vegetables are $10.68 each. All right, so I've got, or cases, sorry. So 1068 for a case of vegetables. All right, so now I'm going to divide by that 1068 on both sides. So 50 divided by 1068. All right, so I got C is less than or equal to 4.68. Okay, now in this case, this means I'm not going to round up. I've got to stop at that 4. I do not have enough money to get to that 5th case. Okay, so you have to be careful here. It's not always just a round up, round down anymore. It's what makes sense to the problem. So if I have $50, I'm only going to be able to get 4 cases. I don't have enough to get to that 5th case. So they can buy 4 cases of food or vegetables, whatever it is. Okay? All right, and that concludes this note set.